What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. Link will be in the description box below. As usual, go get it. This video is entitled, you gotta know how to turn it on and off. Inspired by something that was said by SOG, Son of God, Andre Ward, former boxer, retired undefeated, will be one of the, will be a Hall of Fame boxer. He was talking about the fight recently between Crawford and Benavidez, and he says, I was concerned about Benavidez being able to win because he couldn't cut off his street mentality. You got to know when to cut it on and when to cut it off, because if you don't, it's going to get in the way. So that inspired this video, because a lot of us have to learn over time that there are aspects of our personality that we have to learn how to cut them on and off before it burns us out when we need it, or it gets in the way of us getting things done. So, that's the problem right there. Now, I'm going to take the street mentality first, because I'm going to use that as an example. I come from rough neighborhoods. Never was a gangster, never was a drug dealer, but pretty much a street kid. Like, I knew how stuff went down. I was exposed to stuff at a very early age, to the point where the people who were participating in those activities when I became a teenager and young man, I had already seen it before them. So I was not interested. But one thing about that street mentality is sometimes people can't cut it on and cut it off. They take it everywhere with them, and it becomes a detriment to them, because, see, you want to be so ingrained in your street mentality that you don't realize there are people who are far more street than you, who've learned to cut it on and cut it off, but when they catch you, they're gonna hurt you, because you really put them off. Like, you really got under their skin to a point where they gonna really show you what it is. Because when you learn how to cut it on and off, you understand that you can have your street mentality and you want to have it everywhere you go. You might run into a soldier, a literal soldier, and he might not, or a literal fighter who literally, that's what they do for a living. And see, your mentality is not going to add up to their mentality a lot of times. Now, there's some street guys who rival soldiers and fighters, and soldiers and fighters know this. But even those guys know you got to cut it off. You can't take that with you everywhere. You know how you say you can take the kid out of the projects, but you can't take the projects out of the kid, And that's the thing. When you are that person, you learn that I got to cut it off. Me personally, I do have a street mentality, but for the most part, I keep it dormant. But if I gotta go there, whatever, I don't care. But one of my biggest issues is I play too much. I'm too playful, and you got to learn how to cut that on and off, because what's gonna wind up happening is, when you don't take everything serious, people won't take you serious. So when you really need to be taken seriously, because you don't know how to cut it on and cut it off, nobody's taking you seriously, and that becomes a problem, because now your mentality is what leads you, not necessarily your actions or your decision makings, because for the most part, perception is people's reality. So what happens is, now you have this perception. You put this perception out of yourself. Well, people perceive you a certain way because of how you carry yourself, because you never cut it off. Same thing is what happens when you're overly sexual. You know, you don't know how to cut it on and cut it off. So everything about you is ran through your sexuality. So, you know, people know when you come around, sex is coming around, or some type of sexual advance, you know. So you might not be able to get anything done because until you get that need met, you won't do anything. And this is what I meant by the street mentality. Until your street fix gets fed, you can't handle your business. You know, until your fun-loving fix gets filled, you can't handle your business. Until your sex gets filled, you can't handle your business. So this is why you have to learn how to cut it on and off, because your mentality gets into the way of handling business, your business in particular. You know, and that becomes a problem. You know, that becomes a major problem because you become that mentality. So that mentality becomes your persona, and your reputation precedes you. So people know how to get you, how to either dismiss you or distract you when it comes to handling your business. So you give everybody an advantage because you can't cut it on and off. You know, you can't control yourself enough to shut yourself up when need be. You know, that's the same thing with greed. You know, you got to be able to cut your greed on and off, because greedy people are always greedy, and if you don't cut it off, you know, all money ain't good money. This is how people get swindled out of their money because they're greedy, or they wind up they can accumulate a lot but create a lot of enemies and get primed for robbery because they're greedy, right? You have to learn when to cut it on and off, because like we would say in the old dominoes game, all money ain't good money. You have to know the difference between good money and bad money and not be greedy enough to say, I'm gonna just take it all and figure out the rest. You might not want to do that. That might not work out well for you in the end. You might get what you want at one point, or you might get robbed for what you thought, you know, you were gonna be able to get with the money that you quote unquote were trying to hustle to get, right? Because this is how people, I'm gonna make more money, so I'm gonna make this. You cut corners because you figure you can be greedy and be rich and greedy. Not gonna work, you know, not gonna work. You know, sometimes cheap things wind up being expensive because you wind up having to pay for them. So that's a reason why you gotta learn how to cut it on and cut it off. When we talk about emotionalism, you have to learn how to cut your emotions on and off, because if you're run by your emotions like this, what's gonna wind up happening is you're gonna always be in your feelings, right? And when you always in your feelings, you're easily controlled. You know, something tugs at your heartstrings and you can't control your aptitude to handle your business, because now you're not focused on the task at hand. You all in your this is wrong, dog. Yeah, it is. But they put that on the table because they knew you was gonna get emotional. They knew you were gonna get triggered. And if you can't cut off your emotions, you know, your emotions are gonna get you in a situation that's gonna be very hard to get you out of, because you might come to an agreement off of your emotions. You might sign a contract based on your emotions. You might commit yourself to something under the rest of your emotions. You get what I'm saying? That's why they say, you know, certain contracts are void, because it was signed under duress. Because it's like, oh, you know, I was put in a bad spot where I couldn't let my logical mind control this. Just what, you know, you can't sign when you're drunk, when you're high, you know, when you're distraught, you know, stuff like that. Like at a funeral is not a good time to make a business decision, because you got to learn how to cut it on and off. And this is a problem that a lot of us have, because we all have issues. We all have triggers. And until you learn how to cut your triggers on and off, they're going to get into the way of your progress as a human being. You know, if you don't cut your superiority complex on and off, it's gonna come back to hurt you. If you don't cut your inferiority complex on and off, it's gonna come back to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? If you don't cut your insecurities on and off, it's gonna come back to hurt you. If you don't cut your overconfidence off, it's gonna come back to hurt you. You know, like, I got it. Okay, that means you got it. You didn't prepare because you just felt like you was overconfident. That's gonna hurt you. So in life, you have to learn how to cut it on and cut it off. So I'm done with this one. Y'all take care. Deuces.